Hello and welcome back to MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things magic. In our video today, we are going to update and upgrade our Saskia the Unyielding Creature Tokens Matter deck. What's up, MTG BC? You are the MTG Burgeoning community. Welcome back to another installment of the Up and Up series, and today we're going to update and upgrade yet again Saskia the Unyielding and our Creature Tokens Matter deck. And I suspect that after the revisions today, in addition to the past revisions that we've had during Saskia's many appearances on the Up and Up series, that after this time, she is primed and ready to enter into the Burgeoning Commander catalog. Of course, the BCC is a series of decks that you can see on a playlist on our channel's page. In addition to this Saskia build, you can look in the description below for the link to tappedout.net, where you can see the deck list as it stands right now. So for today, we have just a handful of cards going in, and as I said, I am quite confident now that Saskia is ready to make her appearance in the Burgeoning Commander catalog. Let's begin with one of my all-time favorite cards from 2022. This card has not caught on yet by the community. I don't know if the community is just waiting on it or sleeping on it, neglecting it, hating it because it came from Infinity. But I'm telling you now, I've played with this card. It does so much work. It is a game-ending card. And in a deck like this that revolves around so many different creature tokens, there are few win conditions more powerful than Starlight Spectacular, an enchantment for 2 and 2 white with the Parade mechanic. At the beginning of combat on our turn, we will choose creatures we control one at a time until each creature we control has been chosen. Each of those creatures gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each creature chosen before it. Of course, the very first creature we choose will get +0/+0. So why is this such an effective game-ending card in a build like this? Well, let's see. It's very, very routine to say we've got at least 10 creature tokens on our side of the battlefield. Honestly, we're underplaying it here a little bit. This is a build that could easily have 20 or even more creatures on our side of the battlefield. Now, granted, they're tokens, so the majority of them are going to be 1/1 outside of any, token-creating shenanigans that we have embedded in the 99 of this build. So if we decide to send most of those creatures into play, or most of those creatures into combat, this is how it shapes up. We have 10 creatures, so the highest is going to be a 19/19. And then we're going to have an 18/18, 17/17, 16/16, all the way down to a 10/10. And that's all for the investment of just 4 mana, no other investments needed other than creatures on our side of the battlefield. This can come down and win the game on the spot. Starlight Spectacular is a card that should be in every single token deck. Any white deck that is a tribal build, any white deck that deals with tokens, any of those facets, Starlight Spectacular will win the game for you. That card is amazing. With that card going in, something has to come out. And for the purposes of this build, it's going to be Fresh Meat. Fresh Meat is an instant for 3 and a green, and we will create a 3/3 green beast creature token for each creature put into our graveyard from the battlefield this turn. Notice that this spell does not say non-token creatures, so even token creatures will matter for Fresh Meat. The reason why we're making this swap and how this is going to happen is each card has a mana value of 4, 2 and 2 white versus 3 and a green. Where Fresh Meat is a reactive spell that we're going to keep in our hand and only use when necessary if our army gets wiped out. Let's face it, it's going to gather dust on our side of the battlefield outside of a board wipe. With Starlight Spectacular, we're going to be more proactive versus the reactionary stance we take with Fresh Meat. In a build like the Saskia one, where we want to be extremely aggressive and win as quickly as we can with our army of creature tokens, Starlight Spectacular is going to help us achieve that feat so much more quickly than Fresh Meat. That's why the Spectacular is in, and the meat is out. All right, second card to go in. It is another white enchantment, but this time it comes from the Warhammer 40k pre-constructed decks, and it is called Defenders of Humanity. For X 2 and a white, when it ETBs, we will create X 2/2 white Astartes warrior creature tokens with Vigilance. That is a very good return on our investment. More mana you churn into that, that's going to be more power and more toughness stretched across those X bodies, and they all have Vigilance, meaning we can send them into combat, and they will be available for defense for our imminent opponent crackbacks. But we're not done yet. And this is one of those cards that, although it can come into play and be proactive, there is also the potential for a reactionary play, similar to something that Fresh Meat can do. And when we can do that, we pay another X2 and a white, and we'll exile this enchantment to create, again, X2/2 white Astartes warrior creature tokens with Vigilance. But we can activate this only if we control no other creatures and only during our turn. So this will be a fantastic card to have on our side of the battlefield if one of our opponents decides to board wipe. We gets back to our turn, maybe we have no other options in our hand. We'll jam all of our mana into Defenders of Humanity's second ability, exile it, and reestablish our army just like that. Defenders of Humanity is going to do work when it comes into play, and it's going to be on our side of the battlefield to replenish a fallen army if needed, without the detriment of holding a card back in our hand, waiting for it to happen. With that being said, with Defenders of Humanity going in, coming out is going to have to be something that also makes tokens, but maybe not to the extent that Defenders of Humanity can. And that is going to be Garruk, Cursed Huntsman. It is a Planeswalker, 4 in Golgari colors, comes in with 5. We can 0 Garruk to produce 2 black and green wolf creature tokens with. When this creature dies, we put a loyalty counter on each Garruk we control. We can -3 to destroy a creature and draw a card, destroy target creature and draw a card, or we can take off 6 loyalty counters to get an emblem with creatures we control, get +3/+3, and have trample. That emblem is very nice to have, particularly in a deck like this. However, for the purposes of what we're trying to do in this build, Garruk is a little bit slow. We're going to invest in initially 6 mana, and at the end of it, we have a Planeswalker that we need to protect, and we can create 2/2/2 black and green wolf creature tokens on its first turn, or we can remove 3 of its 5 starting loyalty counters to destroy a creature and put a card into our hand. Slow. We're looking to be faster, we're looking to be quicker, we're looking to establish and dominate with our board state more effectively and efficiently, and for the purposes of this build, I think Defenders of Humanity does that better than Garruk, Cursed Huntsman. That's why it is in, and Garruk, you're out. Alright, MTG BC, our last change for this almost ready to enter the BCC Saskia build. We're going back to Infinity, and everything I said about Starlight Spectacular is also going to apply to this card. The rarity level is just uncommon, but what it does for any deck with green in it, it is fantastic. That is Paradise Lost, an instant for 3 and 2 green. We get to roll 2 6-sided dice. We return any number of cards with total mana value X or less from our graveyard to our hand, where X is the total of those results, and then we exile Paradise Lost. Now remember, lands have a mana value of 0, and if we have any number of fetch lands in our graveyard, casting Paradise Lost will put those back into our hand, regardless of the results of our d6 rolls. If we're lucky, we get up to 12. Maybe we're bringing numerous creature tokens, spells, instants, sorceries from our graveyard back to our hand to give them another roll onto the battlefield. Either way, end of our last opponent's turn, casting Paradise Lost can fill our hand with a number of cards that should be powerful enough to end up clinching the game for us. This card should not be overlooked. You might think that the 3 and 2 green is too much, but if you've got the mana and you're going to cast it at the end of your last opponent's turn, you got some lands in the graveyard, maybe there's a creature that we want out in the graveyard, maybe one of our enchantments that doubles our tokens are in there. I mean, on average, you're going to roll 6. I mean, if you roll the 2d6s enough times, you're going to average out a 6. And let's face it, that's going to get you back your Doubling Season, your Anointed Procession, your Parallel Lives, maybe some lands. Paradise Lost, great card. All right, with Paradise Lost going in, it's going to replace Idol of Oblivion. Artifact for 2, we can tap this to draw a card, but we can only activate this anytime we create a token, which, I mean, in this deck isn't difficult to do. And then we can also pay 8, tap this, and sacrifice it to create a 10/10 colorless Eldrazi token. If only that Eldrazi token had Annihilator of something, it would make this discussion a little more difficult to have. But let's face it, Paradise Lost will put more cards into our hand than Idol of Oblivion will over the course of a game. Once we get this out onto the battlefield, we create a token, tap, and draw a card. That's great, no problem there. But for burst card draw, Paradise Lost is going to put more of those into our hand than Idol of Oblivion is going to over a course of a number of turns. And besides a 10/10 vanilla for 8 mana, 10/10 vanilla, that's not what we're looking for. Honestly, I'd rather have 10/1/1s than 1 10/10. So Paradise Lost going in, Idol of Oblivion, it's coming out. And there you have it, MTG BC. Saskia the Unyielding, Creature Tokens Matter Revisions. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. This is MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things Magic.